Always a banger.
Grayson Hart in the studio.
Shit. Been waiting for this, bro. You told me you were setting up a podcast like 5 years ago.
Well, now it's finally happening. It's good to have you in, man. I always start the podcast with, what does Without Limits mean to you? And it's something that puts a lot of people on the spot. So yeah, first things that come to mind, what does Without Limits mean to you?
Yeah, I love the phrase without limits. I completely understand why that's something that is so true to you guys. The way you've lived your life, Ollie, is about just going above and beyond and expressing your true potential. And for me, when I think of without limits, it reminds me of the capacity that every human being is born with. Like we are like, our true self is unlimited. And as we grow, we get concepts and ideas of what we're capable of, what we should do with our life. And one of the things that I'm most passionate about is questioning those concepts and those ideas and those limitations to actually tap into what I believe is our true self, which is unlimited. And so Without Limits is an amazing way to encapsulate that, to question that status quo, question the conditioning, and see that there's so much more to us than what, the chatter in our mind can often say.
Yeah, that's power. I mean, having seen your content more recently, there's certainly a lot more perspective that you've gained, and you're bringing that very much to your personal brand. So I want to tap into that a little bit more later, but we'll save that for now. I want to just take people back to, obviously your accent, for people that don't know, isn't from the UK. I think it's part of what makes you the most swaggy dude that I know. But what was life like in New Zealand?
Yeah, life was good, man. Like, it was, we loved sport. We loved rugby growing up. I grew up in a household where, I grew up with just my dad. My parents were separated from a very young age. We lived with my dad, and rugby was part of our family. It was just something you were born into. We loved it. My uncle was actually the All Blacks coach, and so that was my dad's brother. So Dad lived a life of loving rugby. It was a big part of just life growing up. And yeah, but just in general, you're out in the streets, you're playing in the front yards, in the park with all the kids from all the neighborhood. I grew up in a very, very multicultural neighborhood. So the concept of different races and religions and all of that, there was no concept. It was just you were all Kiwis, but this guy his family was from Iraq, this one was from Somalia, this one was from Tonga. So it's I don't know, we didn't have the concepts of difference. It was we were all different, but we were all one. That was just normal. And sport was something that brought us all together, whether you're good at sport or not. You're playing in the playground, you're skateboarding, you're riding your bike around, playing rugby. Yeah, man, those are the memories I have, and how meaningful that was to kind of molding who you are.
I think anyone that knows rugby will have a real appreciation for the competitive advantage you get, I think, being from New Zealand and being involved with rugby. There's something that's very different about what the game means to you guys, and like I say, the competitive advantage it gives you from a mindset perspective.
Yeah, rugby is almost like a manifestation of New Zealand culture in some way, because I feel it's more than just a sport. It's even the way we do the haka, and the expression and the passion, and that you're representing something greater than yourself. That almost in New Zealand goes synonymously with rugby. When you're representing your club or your school or your province or your city or whatever, the way that New Zealand, it's ingrained, it's something greater than you as an individual. And it's almost it brings out this deeper power. And then we've obviously got our really meaningful and powerful Māori heritage, which is our native indigenous people of New Zealand, and they're a very the Māori people, the whole mindset is very connected with the land and the heritage and the ancestry, and so rugby as well almost became an expression of that too. So it always came with a deeper meaning, and I don't know, I feel it helps New Zealand rugby to transcend the limitations of it just being a game or a profession. It's it means more to us.
Can you escape that, or is it, as a young boy or girl growing up in New Zealand, is it Is it just part and parcel of what everyone goes through?
Yeah, I mean,
because every Kiwi I've ever met has always talked very fond about rugby and is very passionate about rugby. I mean, it's obviously because I've been in rugby circles most of my life, but is it ingrained in everyone as they're growing up from a young age?
Obviously I'm biased because it was such a huge part of my life too. So it's hard for me to speak, but from a different perspective. But from my view, the majority of New Zealanders, like you would be really hard to come by someone that wasn't interested in the All Blacks game coming up. And yeah, man, like it's just an excitement. People get around it. Like Kiwis are just proud, man. Like we're a really small country, and in rugby, it's like put us on the map, and we punch above our weight like massively. I think the All Blacks are one of the most successful win ratio professional sporting teams in the world, you know. And like it's just like we're just so proud of it, man. And like the game, like the way we play the game as well, I think we're really proud of that because it's an expression. You know, you see the All Blacks, they don't play like a really rigid way. It's like the players are able to express themselves and utilize their skills that they've grown up. That was one of the things I loved, like growing up in New Zealand. Like you'd see the massive big guys who body shape, you know, they'd been blessed with a body shape to become a prop. But they were playing touch from the age of 5, chucking the ball around, like calling themselves Dan Carter or Benji Marshall and doing the steps and the no-look passes and stuff. So, yeah, like that expression is part of the game. That's why when you see guys, they get into the professional leagues and they get refined at like, you know, scrummaging and the breakdown and the tackle if they're a forward, but they're still in the moment flicking that offload and bringing the defender the other way because it's just what they know, you know. It
had a huge influence on when I was like obsessed with rugby. It's all I watched. My second team was certainly the All Blacks, and it was touch and go at times whether that would be the team that I'd support even when they played England. All the YouTubes of Carlos Spencer, Tanu Umang, those heroes, and I think it was because they played the game so differently, and you could tell it just meant more to them. Yeah, man. And the kids growing up, like we love it. So in the park or in the street, you're racing your friends, you're sidestepping each other, like you're chucking the pass and you're emulating those guys, but you're doing it playfully. But what you don't realize, we're all developing skills and like evasiveness or speed. Like, yeah, man, like we used to just race each other in the street. I remember like when we got older and we'd go to the nightclub and we were like 18 years old and we couldn't afford to buy drinks at the bar. We'd have to go to the like bottle shop and drink in the car park before. But when we'd be drinking in the car, we'd be racing each other. We'd be playing side steps with each other. Like it was just what we loved doing, man. Like people would rock up like to go to the nightclub and they'd see these dudes like sprinting through the car park and shit. But what you don't realize, when you're doing something because you love doing it and you're doing it and you're having fun with it, that's often like the best way to develop skills, you know? And then the hard work doesn't feel as hard when you're having fun, right? Yeah. So Uncle being the coach of the All Blacks, that being ingrained in New Zealand culture, you know, rugby, hard for you not to start to pick up a ball and take it a little bit more seriously, eh? Yeah, man. And I don't know, I just loved chucking a rugby ball around. And I think growing up with just my dad and also like, you know, my dad was kind of like the black sheep of the family. He was the youngest sibling and he'd gone through a lot of challenges in his life and faced trouble with like addiction and things like that, and he'd always sort of struggled to get his life back on track. So we were kind of like the part of the family that was maybe a bit sort of on the outside, and my dad was always pretty hard on himself and pretty down about life, and like that maybe he couldn't give and provide to us, you know, what he would have liked and things like that. But there was one thing that we shared together, which was the love of rugby. And I think that being something that was such a special like connection and bond with my dad, I don't know, man, like, because when you're growing up and if sometimes, you know, as a little kid, you just want that bond and that connection with your parent. And some parents, they're, you know, through their own troubles and limitations, maybe they're not that good at communicating or they're not that like well equipped to like be a parent or know how to do it or be the best. But there's sometimes that one thing that brings people together, and for me and my dad, that was rugby. And
So I think that also allowed that love for the game and that passion and that meaning to like mean even more, because I used to just love going to the park with my dad and kicking the goals, and he'd pretend to be the commentator and be like, hey, Grayson Hart lining up, they kick for the World Cup. I like stuff like that, man. It just makes it, you just love it. You know, it's got meaning to you. So I think, yeah, from a very early age, I was just chucking rugby around, kicking around the park. And then before I knew it, yeah, like people were like, "Fuck, you got a good pass, man!" Like, and I was like, "Oh yeah, shit, it's cool." Like, and I had a really good pass. It was just because I was chucking the ball around all day. So,
and when did that become a little bit more serious for you? Because I mean, I know you talk your rugby career down, but you've achieved some good things in the sport.
Yeah, man, I had a good time. Well, I started to realize I was like kind of good when maybe I got to about, I think it was 13, where they had like the rep trials, and then the coach from your club, they pick a few players that they thought were capable of making the team, and I was one of them, and they sent me and I made the team. And I was just absolutely buzzing, man. I didn't think I was going to make it, and I made it and got my little Auckland rugby tracksuit, Auckland under 13s or what it was, and that's when I started to be like, oh shit, like, okay, you know, because yeah, before, you know, you play and you love it and you might score a try, you might get player of the day someday or whatever, but you kind of don't really have the concept of like better or worse. You're just playing the game and you're just loving it. And it's not until those concepts with the rep teams and things, you kind of like, oh shit, okay, I made that. And then, yeah, that's when I guess the ambition to be like, okay, I'm going to make the under 15s next year. I'm going to make the under 18s. Like, so you start to like realize, okay, and you get these ambitions. And it probably wasn't, I think one day, I actually remember I was like at school in my last year of school, and they were all talking about what are you going to do next year, like university or apprenticeship and stuff like that. And I was like, fuck, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, what am I going to do? Because I just would have fun at school. Wasn't that interested in the marks and stuff like that. I'll just play rugby and hang out with my friends, and every now and then I'll challenge myself to try and get like a pass mark or something, but wasn't too phased. Didn't have an end goal in mind. But that was when it really hit me. I was like, damn, man, like this is coming to an end, and you want to do something with your life. Like, you don't want to live in a council house, and you want to have something that you can like be committed to and be passionate about, and like that can grow and evolve, you know. And I just remember seeing, I was like, what can I do? And I was like, oh, I want to try to become a rugby player. And that was the first time that I actually, because before I just wanted to make the rep teams because I'd made one, and I was like, yeah, that's fun and it's cool and I want to do that. I like doing that. So yeah, I still remember that to this day. And then I just started like training real hard, but like it was just me down at the park. Like, I'd be doing sprints, I'd be like kicking the ball up back and forth, passing the ball. I had this little target net thingy that my dad built for me on the fence at home, just pass the ball for ages. And yeah, man, I started hitting the gym for the first time. My brother got a job as a personal trainer because he'd done his thing at university. They could have one free pass, so he gave me the pass. Man, I was hitting the gym like twice a day, and I was like taking my protein shakes, eating my tuna, looking in the mirror, see if my muscles are growing. And my brother would like email the academies and stuff. He'd be like, "Hey, do you guys have a spot for my brother? He's a good player." But because I had not gone to one of the first 15 schools, it's really hard for the academies and that to pick you, for you to even get an opportunity to get eyes on you, because there's so many players in New Zealand.
How did you get in one of those schools? Is it grades or
into one of the academies?
Into one of those top schools? Is it because you were from the council estate?
So what the way to get into one of those top tier first 15s is they're either one of the private schools, and you've got to get offered a scholarship. And the way it would usually go is they would offer these scholarships to these like massive big Tongan boys who were playing rugby over in Tonga or at a school in South Auckland, because they're only allowed a limited number of scholarships. And the other way is there's some public schools like Auckland Grammar, but public schools in New Zealand, you actually have to live in that area. I actually got offered a spot in Auckland Grammar to go to Auckland Grammar to play first 15 in my final year, because they have like a kind of a ballot, and then they can kind of rig the ballot to let good players in through the ballot. So they kind of get one or two good players in through that avenue. I don't know if I shouldn't say it. Well, no one here's going to tell on Auckland Grammar. But yeah, so I got in through that. The kind of first 15 coach sort of got me in. But that year they created a thing that if you have played for a B grade first 15 and you go to an A grade one, the principal of your school has to agree. Otherwise, you can't play first 15 for the first 8 games or something. The season's only 20 games long. And then my principal of my old school said, no. He said, I can't go. Yeah, he said, I can't. He doesn't get tick it off.
So you transfer from a B side to an A side.
Well, I didn't end up going because the principal said no.
So the B side principal has to sign it off.
Yeah.
And he just held you back.
Yeah. And I went to him, I was like, mate, this is an amazing opportunity for me, man. I'm going to go play for the best first 15 in New Zealand schoolboy history, and my ambition is rugby. And he was just like, nah, because if I let you go, then they're going to keep doing it to all our players. And I was like, yeah, come on, man, shit. But it was pretty, I didn't take it too well. So I actually then ended up dropping out of school. I was like, I don't want to stay here at your school. So I went and played club rugby. And
so that was the end of education?
Yeah, I was like, I'm done. Because he didn't allow me to take up an opportunity that to me was an opportunity of a lifetime. That would have been a chance to get in that shop window to make the academies and all that.
What does staying at that B-side school do for that principal?
Yeah, I think
if you go on to make it, I mean, they put that school name down in the history books.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Because guys like Doug Howlett, he had gone to my school. He got that same opportunity to go to Auckland Grammar. He went on to be one of the greatest All Black wingers ever, right? And then the school was always so proud that they'd had this All Black. So I don't know. I think the guy at the time was, maybe I'd gotten too much trouble and he was trying to set a precedent on me or something. I don't know. But
I mean, I've heard you talk about not being the best behaved kid before. Where did that come from? A broken, not having role models from outside of rugby, or?
I think definitely, the way that we grew up, my dad was doing his best, but we probably didn't have the level of guidelines and disciplines that a lot of kids would have from their parents. So yeah, I don't know. But I've always had something ingrained in me that I'll question authority. And the way I've always operated is, if someone in an authoritative position speaks to me in a way like we're on a level playing field, but they've got a request or they've got a guideline or something that they think is the right way to do something, I will really hear that and take notice of that and respect that. But when people in positions of authority just point from up on a pedestal and tell you what to do, that never landed well with me. So I'd always sort of question it or challenge it. But also, I've been diagnosed with what they call ADHD. We could probably go into a whole nother podcast because I don't really agree with people labeling those things and putting people in a box, because I think we're all completely neurodiverse and our minds operate and work in different ways and no mind is the same, and it's limiting to put a label on people to for them to over-conceptualize how their mind works and all that. But what I have learned about myself is, if something that I'm interested in and passionate about, I'll learn that until in the end of time, or I'll do whatever it takes to understand it and figure it out, and I'll enjoy it and I'll love it, and I'll be you'll be hard to switch me off from it. But if it's something that I'm not interested in, I just can't. I'm just not interested. So, but they would label those kids as bad kids, whereas actually the capacity that I've got to learn and understand and see things in a pretty powerful way, I know is there. And the school system doesn't cater to those kids. It caters to the kids that are outstanding in school are the ones that can adhere to all the subjects and just get it done and remember the information and regurgitate it and get the marks, right? So, yeah, I just didn't fit into the system, and I was also someone that just questioned it. And I don't know, if a teacher would speak down on students, I didn't respect the teacher. So I'd be like, oh, I don't respect you, so you don't respect me. Well, so what? Let's go then, But I was also, I think the way I was I was cheeky, and I'd sort of wind them up, but I was never outwardly disrespectful. So it would frustrate them, and I don't know, I'd do it in a way to make make the other kids laugh and but then I'd be oh, sir, and then, after a while, I don't know, they start to come for you a little bit.
So, I mean, I would have dropped out of school if my principal held me back from a chance of a lifetime. So you drop out, you join...
Mr. Raps, and that was sad, buddy.
We'll get him back.
Yeah.
You join the local club rugby and your brother's then touting you to the big clubs.
Yeah, man. And I just started off in the under-21s, and then they put me up into the Premier team, so the men's team, and I was just 18. Started playing well, and in New Zealand, club rugby is like a feeder to like the pro teams. Like they're looking at the clubs, and you often get the pros who aren't getting game time. They come down and play in the Premiership club rugby. So that was like a big thing for me. So it ended up being a good move. I was playing in the top. Auckland's like the top club rugby league in New Zealand. One day, my brother and we kept emailing the academies. They kept saying nah, and the one I wanted was Auckland. Obviously, that's where I was from. And then the academy manager messaged my brother one day. He's like, "Oh, can Grayson play in this trial game because we've got an injury, and it's a New Zealand under-21 trial. It's Auckland it's the Blues versus the Chiefs under-21s. It's a trial for New Zealand under-21s, but he's not trialling. But the number 9 who's meant to play half the game's injured, so he needs someone to fill in. Can you do that?" And you're like, yeah. So anyway, go out to the game. I spent like 2 hours that morning passing the ball against the fence, which probably is too long, but I got my eye dialed in. And got there, and then we got lost, man. That was a day without navigation, like on iPhones and stuff. My dad got lost. I was like, fuck, like, gutted as we. So we got there late, get into the change room. They're all going out to warm up, and it was the first time I was ever going to get the chance to wear the Adidas Blues uniform. And the only one left was a 3XL, bro. And I was like a skinny ass little dude, and so I had these saggy shorts and jersey. But I was like, I don't care, man. It's an opportunity of a lifetime. And because I was just filling in, they didn't care they didn't really mind that I was late. I was just this dude filling in. Anyway, got on in the second half, and I was just like going for it, man. Like every tackle, every ruck, every pass, just like ripping in, man. Because I had nothing to lose. And it was just exciting and amazing for me to be out there with that caliber of players. And so I had no expectation. And then I came off the field, and people were like saying, "Man, like, you killed it, bro." But I didn't have any recollection of it because I was just so in the moment. Like, I literally didn't have any gauge or judgment of how I'd play because I just literally just gone hard in the moment. And people were like, "You did mean." And then Pat Lamb, who was the Auckland coach, came up to me. He's like, "Oh, can you come down to pre-season training for the Mitre 10 Cup," which was like the Auckland team. And I was like, yeah. And then no expectation, still just went down, started training, did the whole pre-season. And then on the last day, they read out squad, and I was in the squad. And then I ended up playing every game that season. Like, I mostly came off the bench, and I started like a handful of games. And I was in an Auckland team that was just stacked. It was like the end of the career for like guys like Jerome Kaino, Sam Tuitapo, Ali Williams, Ben Artinga, Doug Howlett, like unbelievable, like dudes that I had on my posters at home. And I was just, I just turned 19 out of nowhere, playing on TV with my heroes. People in my neighborhood be like, "You're the man." And I was like, I don't know, I just kind of ended up here. And yeah, it was like, I just couldn't believe I was there. I had a lot of imposter syndrome and a lot of like, I'm not good enough to be here. Like chucking passes to dudes that I idolized. I would start shitting myself at training because I was like, don't fucking throw him a shit pass, man. That's Isa Mathiwa, bro. Like, you don't, you know. But they were great dudes, man. And they brought me up. They helped me. They looked after me. And yeah, that was the start of my professional career.
Were you still able to play as freely when you joined that first season as you did when you went to that trial, or did you feel the expectation changes?
Initially, I was just, for the majority of that season, I was just doing the same thing, man. I was just buzzing to be there, and I would get out there and I would just do 1,000 miles an hour. Like, they used to highlight like clips up on the Monday and be like, Grayson played 12 minutes and he made 12 tackles, and that showed me just like sprinting around. And I'm like, this is the work rate. And I was like, I don't even remember, man. I had 12 minutes, but I was just going for it. So I think I was just raw and like, you know, and I was in an amazing team where they were all like encouraging and supporting. It was probably the next season that then I had expectation, you know, because then I made into the New Zealand U20s. We won the World Cup. I got picked for the Blues off the back of that one season at Auckland. So then it was like, oh, like people started to be like, okay, like this guy's legit, you know. And then I started to be like, okay, like now I've done that, I got to make sure that I progress, you know. And then a lot of the old players left, so it was like a whole new squad. That is when I started to get in my head about the concept of like not messing up, you know, making sure that, like I understood all the elements of the game plan and everything like that, and that like I'd done all my homework and all these things, whereas before I was just getting out there and ripping in. So definitely that feeling of like that imposter syndrome, that double guessing yourself, that losing that like feel of like that freedom and intuition that was just so natural before, that was a tough time, man, because I was like, all my dreams were coming true, but mentally I didn't feel good.
It's funny how all the things that get you there, all the sets and reps, all the 2-hour passing before the trial, but when you actually do make it and then your identity shifts a little bit to being a professional rugby player, you start second guessing yourself. Yeah,
and I think there's a lot of analogies in sport for life, you know, as you know so well. Like, I think sport is like a magnified version of the roller coaster of life, you know, because things can be going so well to plan one day and then you get injured or the result doesn't go away or a new player comes in and takes your spot. Life's going to throw like curveballs at you and things are not going to go to plan, and it's an opportunity to go within and see who you are and how you're going to navigate that. And I think some of the roller coasters that my rugby career threw my way and what that made me have to learn about myself and life definitely helped mold like my perspective on life and how I wanted to go like about business and life. And so yeah, man, there was some tough times, like being a 20-year-old kid and people thinking, oh, the world's at your feet and all that, and you're doing so well, but then feeling internally like you don't belong and you're not good enough and you're in your head and you're feeling limited. And it's a tough one, man, because people are looking at you like, oh, like you living the dream. And then you're like, I rock up there and I'm doubting myself and I feel like I don't belong, you know. It's a tough dynamic, but it's an opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, anyone that understands the professional game or elite sport in general will understand how highly competitive it is, let alone in New Zealand, where every boyhood's dream is to play for the All Blacks or to get a contract with one of the Super 15 teams at the time. So you're 20 years old. How much longer did you stick it out in New Zealand, and why did you leave?
Yeah, so the following year, my dad passed away and he got cancer. So that was when he passed away. That was like a massive piece of the puzzle of my life was gone, you know. And also like he was someone that, because I'd seen how much love and how much effort he had made for us kids and that, and especially like that bond that him and I shared with rugby, I didn't even know it. Like it was like subconscious, like that was a huge part of the meaning of my like passion and drive, because like he didn't have much to like, you know, sort of make him that he was proud of himself. But when he saw his son or his kids doing well, whether it was like, you know, my little sister at school or my brother at university or me with rugby, like he loved it, you know. And like, so that was something that I think really drove me as well to make it through those times where I was like questioning myself and doubting myself, like, but like you make dad proud, so keep going, you know. And so like but also like up in the point before he passed away, my brother and I were caring for him at home, and that was like a hugely challenging experience to go through, like your dad dying from cancer, and like we were caring for him, but that was something that we chose that we wanted to do for our dad because he had done so much for us, and he like hated the hospital, and like he had his dog that he loved that he wanted to be with. So I was trying to be a full-time rugby player in my second year, where I was really like, it was a challenging second year already, and then I was taking care of my dad at home. And then when he passed away, like I just was exhausted, man. Like I literally, I don't know, I just felt depleted, and I felt I'd lost so much of that like meaning behind what drove me through the hard times with my rugby. And yeah, man, I don't know, like I always loved rugby. I was always so easily driven and passionate with it. Like I used to train the house down, and it was just felt like fun, you know. And yeah, it just felt like I was missing that. And I then went out without realizing why or what I was doing. I was trying to fill that void, you know. And in New Zealand and in rugby culture, like drinking and other activities around that, like they're already there. They're things that you need to try your best to navigate regardless. But then in that time when I was feeling so down and alone and lost and unmotivated, I was trying to fill a void, because you don't know any other better way when you're that young and you don't have that guidance. So I started drinking a lot, like discovered gambling, because we used to stay in the Sky City Hotel before games. Also growing up in New Zealand, like especially back in those days, like in the neighborhood I grew up in, like fighting wasn't really uncommon. Like it was pretty normal to not a week would go by that you wouldn't have some type of like scuffle or fight. So you kind of have that in you, and then I had that kind of like sadness that I was trying to escape and distract through the alcohol. So yeah, I'd be getting into some fights and drinking and gambling. And none of those things serve you, you know, when you're doing them to escape your feelings. So yeah, man, like but the tough bit was I wasn't able to be open and talk about my problems or how I was feeling or what I was going through. And I was also trying to portray to the club and people around me that I was this guy that they thought I was, like this guy who had done so well to get to this level and had this big future ahead. But really in my mind, I felt the guilt to myself and to like letting myself and the others down, that I wasn't living up to that, and I was drinking and getting in trouble and all that. And yeah, my performance just went down, man. Like my training motivation, all of it just dropped, and wasn't playing well. Was just so unconfident because of all the noise going on. And eventually I got into trouble because word got back that I had a couple fights, and then yeah, they were just like, yeah, we're going to release you from the next year of your contract. And I was like, fuck. That was like rock bottom for me, man.
Are there any of the senior boys at the time know anything about this, or anyone that can put their arm around you?
That was probably the bit I look back on that I regret, because I think there were a couple people because there were people that knew me, that where I'd come from, like my upbringing, and they had an insight into that. But then there were other people that just assumed, because my uncle was the All Black coach, that I've had this fucking great easy life, you know, because he's a successful guy, so it must be the whole family. So there was only few people that really knew how I'd grown up with my dad with addiction and single parent and like challenging environment. And it was also something that I didn't want to like go around and make a storyline about, you know. So I think not many people knew how alone that I was. And yeah, there was definitely a couple people that kind of saw signs, but I was always like, nah, I'm good, because I was lying to myself.
It's the classic fucking young male rugby player response. I'm sweet.
Yeah, and like you want to be sweet. Like I wasn't going about trying to stuff my life up, you know. So I was like, nah, I'm good. Like even like when I'd drink too much or fight, and my brother would find out, like, come on, bro, you can't get back on track. And I'd be like, no, I'm good. But I wasn't good, you know. But yeah. So I don't know, man. I do think the clubs I don't know what they're up to nowadays, but I do think they need to do better to understand the individuals. Like, you know, and even like when I was taking care of my dad, maybe it was my responsibility to let them know that that's what was going on, but they didn't know. You know, I was going home after training every day and like literally being a carer for my dad. So yeah, just probably front-footing it yourself, man, and being open. But I do think the professional environments, they could do more to understand the circumstances of the players.
100%. I mean, I think it is a lot different now from what I see and hear from friends of mine that are still in the professional game. But certainly, 15 years ago, it wasn't like that. And you know, there's still a lot of maturing that 20-year-old boys have to do. Yeah,
man, you're still just a kid, man, and especially in that sport environment, like it's so single focused, you know. You like big kids, like the whole squad. It's like being in the first 15 all day, every day, you know. So there's also things they can do to understand the vulnerabilities of kids that don't have the guidance at home, you know? Because, yeah, man, like, I was, looking back, I hate to use the phrase vulnerable. Maybe vulnerable is the wrong word, but, like, it was easy for me to get off track, you know? Like, in New Zealand, we love rugby. I was this young guy from the city that I'd grown up in, playing for my team, earning some money, being on TV. Like, you know, people start coming around you, like, treating you different, and it's not true. But, like, if you don't have that guideline, that foundation at home, and that understand, that discipline, you can get carried away with that sort of perspective, you know. But again, I see it all as it's all unfolded perfectly, because it made me have to come to a point in my life where I questioned, like, who I was, how I was living, and what was my next step, you know.
I mean, the emotion from the excitement on in your voice talking about boyhood rugby, and then the emotion that last 5 minutes fucking touched me, bro.
Right, well, you know what, man? You shared that journey too.
Yeah, bro. So, okay, the club released you. Then what? You're questioning life choices. How did you end up on our shores? I'm grateful that you did, because it's been a fucking great friendship for the last 3-4 years.
Me too, bro. Yeah, that was a bad time in my life. I was just like, okay, I had this tough upbringing. I saw how much my dad struggled. I started to make something good of my life, and now I fucked it up. I was like, damn. And then I was like, I really want to learn from this. I really want another opportunity. And I ended up, but I was like, I need to get away. I don't want to be here in Auckland. I kind of want to get away from all this kind of what's going on and this trouble and how
it's a blessing and a curse, New Zealand, right? Because it's like, it's so much opportunity, but also there's like, when rugby, maybe the doors closed, and it's almost like, now what is there here?
Yeah, man. And it's a very, like, everything's connected there. So once I got into trouble and I had a fight and I got back to the club, and then I wasn't playing well and I was drinking, and it's like your reputation.
You see it even now, like the tall poppy syndrome thing, right? As soon as one of the when the All Blacks comes to the end of the All Black career, they go to Japan or France, bar a few players, the Kiwi public just turn against them.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's crazy. Like, but that's the thing. New Zealand are so obsessed with their rugby that, like, you're always going to get those armchair critics, you know, and, like, that was it. Like, man, yeah, I used to get slated, like, as a 20-year-old playing for Auckland or the Blues if I didn't get to the ruck in time, or I threw a bad pass or whatever. Like, man, even the commentators would absolutely rip you on, like, live TV, and you're just this little kid who was trying to do his best out there, man. You're like, damn, you know. And so it was definitely like a tough environment, and, like, criticism was just a real normal part of it in our culture with rugby. We're very, like, you know, tough on it, but I think that people forget, like, shit, that's just a human being out there, man, and he's probably as sensitive and anxious about life as I am, and he's out there doing his best, and we're already slating him on talkback radio and saying he's shit and this other guy should play and all that. But also then it makes you realize, okay, like, people are going to have their opinions about you in life. And what are you going to do about it? You got to focus on what you can do. So you got to learn that quickly, man. Like, and that was also another blessing, because, you know, I'm sure when you're a founder and a CEO of a business, people that aren't in those shoes, they'll never understand the 1,000 things on your mind that when you wake up, before you even get out of bed, that's on your mind before you go to bed, the amount of people that you're dealing with, the amount of different things you got to understand. And it will be easy for them to have a perspective of you from one interaction or something, to be like, oh, this guy or that guy, like, this is how he is. And that's how I experience things in business. So, but then it makes you realize, like, actually, I know who I am. And I know that I'm committed, that I work hard, that this means something to me, and that's what I'm going to focus on, you know. So, yeah, it's like I said, pro sport, man, it's a powerful, magnified roller coaster of life in, like, a short period. But there's a lot of opportunities to see life more clearly through it.
That period of your life, did you want to stay in the professional game because that's all you knew and you thought it was the only opportunity, or was there still passion to put down the drink and give it another shot?
Yeah. So what happened was, I had no idea what I was going to do. I was pretty stuffed, man, and I went through a period of still, like, trying to escape that reality of, like, that feeling of failure and and all that pain and sadness that I was in by drinking and still getting into trouble. And that probably went on for like 3 months. And then one day I just woke up and I was like, I was hungover. I think I'd had a fight the night before, and I was like, I cannot live this way anymore. Like, I'm done with it. I'm exhausted now. And before that, I was just kept denying. And then when it was literally just like, I'm done now. Something's got to change. And yeah, I asked my brother if he could help me, and he ended up finding a guy that I could talk to. And this guy was well known because he used to work with a lot of rugby league players, and rugby league are famous for like getting in trouble off the field and doing stuff. So he was known for working with a lot of these players, and I went and worked with him. And pretty much he just taught me about like the fact that we try to escape our feelings and try to fill voids by instant gratification. You know, whether it's the gambling, girls, drinking, and it's actually just creates a cycle, because then you feel more down, so there's more down feelings to escape. There's guilt for like upsetting people, fighting already, what you're doing to harm your own body by drinking and all that, and you feel more down, so then you need to escape that more, and you just create a cycle. And it's also, he explained to me, that it's also wrapped up in the fact that in our society, we are taught that we are our identity, like our value and happiness and inner peace is attached directly to what we do and our identity and the perception people have of us. And he started to just unravel it all. And like, he actually said this thing that like, it still sticks to me to this very day. He goes, because a big part of the pain was like, I felt that I'd lost love and security when my dad died. I was like, I'm on my own now. And he said to me, he goes, like, you know the love and the security that you felt from your dad, that was inside of you. And it was the same, it was shared with him. And even though he's not here, it's still inside of you. And he said that's the only place to find it. But because you've thought it's gone, you've been trying to seek it out in the world and escape those feelings of, you know, not having that love and security. And you've tried to seek it in instant gratification to distract and avoid and fill that void. And he said, but you'll never find it. And the more you chase it, the less complete you're going to feel. He said the only way you can understand that you're okay and that you never lost that love and security when your dad died is that you got to see it within yourself. And like, I don't know, they say like when the student's ready, the teacher will appear. Because if he had said that to me 6 months before, I was just being like, oh yeah, it sounds philosophical, but yeah. But it just really rung true to me. So I think all the shit that I'd gone through was life giving me an opportunity to see life truly. And I honestly can't explain it, but it was like something switched in me from that moment. And it's been the foundation of like my life since. Like, I just started to realize in any moment that I am all good. I'm okay. Like, I am the love that we're taught to seek out in the world. And rather than seek it, I want to see in any given moment that that's who I am and go about my life expressing that rather than trying to find it. And it changed my life, man. And then I became energized. I was like, I fucking love rugby. I don't care how much I get paid or what team I play for. I actually really love doing that, and I'm going to find a way to do it again. And then opportunity to go play at like a semi-pro club in Australia came up, and they were sort of like had good links to the Waratahs and Super Rugby. And so the Waratahs were like, okay, come and play for this club and we'll see how you go. And man, like, I just loved it, man. And being in a semi-pro team where there was guys who were ambitious and young trying to make it, and then some guys who were in the big leagues that were coming down, it was just a perfect environment for me to like find my passion and love for the game. And I just remember like, because growing up, I used to lead the teams that I played in. You know, I wasn't just a part, I would lead the team. And I found that again at this club, because I kind of lost that when I got into the Auckland teams. I was like, okay, I'm just lucky to be here. Whereas in this club, I was like, I'm just going to do my thing, and I'm going to try to bring these guys up with me and like lead. And we had such an amazing year, and I got a contract with the Waratahs. And I remember when I got that contract, they train in a 6 stadium in Bondi and like unbelievable facilities, and you're in fucking Bondi, it's sunshine, and like, you know, it was a great club to be at. And I just said to myself, I'm not going to take a single part of this for granted. Because after that first year in the pro leagues, you, especially when you're young and you get caught up in it, you overlook the shit that meant the most to you. Like, and so just the ability to train in a sick gym with my teammates, with the facilities, with unbelievable trainers, with the program, with the supplements, like with the coaching to go out there and learn and grow, and just to do that shit every day, I was like, fuck, this is what it's about for me, you know? And it changed, man. Like, it just changed. I no longer was attached to just the outcome. I really was like grateful and immersed in the process. And that was really how my life changed. Because, yeah, I love rugby. I got my opportunity, and then through different circumstances and misunderstandings, I lost that connection and buy-in and that passion and took it for granted probably in some way. So then when I got it another time, I was like, wow, I'm never going to take it for granted again. And yeah, that was kind of the foundation of how I went about my rugby for the rest. And it took the pressure off, because I used to put pressure on myself to be like, you must play this many games, you must earn this much money, you must be on this trajectory. And it's good to have the ambition and the goals, but when it becomes like a prison that stifles you, that's not what the goals and the ambition is for. You know, they should be an expression and see how you go.
I'm smiling because it's so relatable, but I hope there's young aspiring athletes that listen to that piece. Yeah. It's fucking power.
Yeah, man, that would be the biggest thing. Like, have your goals and ambitions, but don't become a prisoner to them, because life's going to throw curveballs and changes. Enjoy, like, every moment. Like, even the times where you're training and it's fucking hard, remember, like, oh, this is I chose to do this. This is sick, you know? Yeah, that's something that changed my life, really, seeing it that way.
I could sit and yarn about rugby for the rest of the episode, but how did you get from Australia then to the UK?
Yeah,
how long were you with the Waratahs for?
I was there for 2 seasons. I didn't end up getting a huge amount of game time, and I think where I went wrong is Michael Checker. He came in as a coach, and his fingers, like, is this on camera? His hands like this, and he's this real old school, like, quite angry, like, guy. And when you shake his hand, like, his little fingers snap, so it goes like that. And then one day I went and I was like, what's up, Michael? And I shook his hand like that. But then on, he was like, nah, I don't like this guy. So I don't know who got that one wrong. But yeah. So I didn't end up getting too much game time, but I loved my time at the club. Some great teammates, got my life back on track. And then Scotland Rugby, because my grandma's Scottish, they had heard that from when I played in the Under-20 World Cup, and they'd sort of been talking to my agent for a while, seeing if I wanted to go, because that's what the UK teams do. They find out which young pros in the Southern Hemisphere are qualified to play, and they start chatting to their agents. And yeah, man, and they offered me a contract, and it was like pretty good money, because like they pay better money in the UK than in New Zealand, Australia for rugby. I wasn't getting much game time. I wanted to progress my career. And then I remember I like Googled, it was Glasgow Warriors who offered me, and I Googled on Google Earth, Glasgow city centre, and I was living in Bondi Beach, and I looked and I was like, oh shit, I don't know if I want to move to this place, man. I keep asking you, what's Glasgow like? They're like, that's the arse end of the world, mate. You know? So I ended up turning them down, Glasgow, and because the Waratahs came to the table and offered me another contract, so I stayed for 1 more year, and I was like, nah, it's got to be my year, and I still didn't end up getting much game time. So then Scottish Rugby Union came back around again, and it was Edinburgh this time they offered me, and I was like, I'm there, but I signed it, got on my way. And it was amazing, because I was a dude on my own on the other side of the world, new style of rugby, new club, new opportunity, and it was a fresh start, and I loved it. And I looked at it, I was like, this is an adventure. Like, give your rugby your all, but don't forget you're like a Kiwi kid on the other side of the world. Like, enjoy the experience, you know, like, see the world, take the opportunity when you got time off to go visit places, learn about the culture where your, you know, family's heritage is from. So yeah, I just saw it as a bigger picture opportunity, and actually that year was probably my best season I ever had as well, because I think I was just looking at it from that bigger picture, but also it was the first season where I'd had this fresh outlook on like been grateful to be there and give my all and be part of the process rather than the outcome. And I actually got a lot of game time that year and played well. And yeah, did really well. Got picked for Scotland at the end of the year. And so that was a good start to the career in the UK.
When did rugby start to, was it injuries or was it lack of love for the game that took you out of it then? Because you had a good career over here, right?
Yeah.
Edinburgh, Scotland, Sevens.
Yeah.
I know towards the end of it, to the tail end, it was probably winding down with some more semi-pro type clubs, but.
Yeah. There was two things. So coming to the UK, pro rugby, regardless, it brought a rigidity to the game, especially as a scrum half, that, you know, in New Zealand, like, we have maybe one or two phases that you are scripted off a set piece, and then you open the game up and you play. Whereas when I came to the UK, they'd have like 5 phases scripted off the first set piece. So as a scrum half, you had to get every one of those phases right. So, and it was just like you're literally running around trying to get through the phases correct. And then from there, every part of the field is mapped out anyway. So off the sideline, you're playing off the 10 and he's hitting the forwards up and you go back down blind, or you play it back around the corner, and every part of the game scripted. And there's all this box kicking. So like, I was like, it was kind of like trying to play a new sport. It was different, man. So I found that rigidity challenging, because I also was like, why are they limiting their players? Because in the UK, I found that they kept saying, our forwards can't do that. They don't have the vision, or they don't have the understanding to look at the space and see, or tip on and da-da-da. And I was like, nah, they do. Your viewpoint that they don't is what's creating it to not be the case, you know? And I think Pat Lamb's a great example. When he went to Connacht, he had a vision for where he was going to get them to, and I know the way he trains, he would have just been getting them to do the skills in conditioning games and in more structured organisational, to the point where it took 3 years, but Connacht was playing like a Super Rugby team, man, and they won the comp, and they were nothing before. They were like last place. So the limitation that the concept and the rigidity of rugby in the UK that they put onto the players, being quite a creative player and like a free-flowing player, I really, really struggled with that. And my tendencies that I have is my whole life to question these authorities when I don't think what they're saying is true or right, or should be, if I feel it just fairly should be questioned. As you know, it doesn't go down that well in rugby, you know, like they don't like that. But that's also something about me that's got me into trouble in my life, but it also makes me who I am, is that I can't help it. I can't help question something that I know is not the way that it's said to be, as like black and white, you know. So that was always a point that I struggle with in the UK with rugby. And then from the age of like 22, when I was playing in Sydney, I'd had a knee injury when I was about 20, and it was just a torn meniscus and MCL, which was not that big and bad of an injury in rugby. It's like usually like 3 months recovery. And that, after I had that injury, the next season, my knee just kept gradually getting more painful, to the point where, like, but you know what it's like when you have something that's not stopping you doing something, it's just a bit of pain. You just push through it in rugby. That's what it's like. And I didn't know that it was like gradually making my knee worse. It was just like my knee was just getting a bit more painful, and I didn't want to like think about being limited or not playing and missing training and stuff. So, but it got to the point where, like, in warm-ups and stuff, like, my knee would be like giving way, and I was like 23 years old, and like my knee would be in like pain and like giving way and like swelling up. And pretty much when I went to Edinburgh, I forgot that part of the story, they said that you have to do a medical test to pass your contract, get your contract. And they sent me for a scan because I had fluid in my knee, and pretty much they were like, fuck, your knee is fucked. Like, you might need to retire because there's no cartilage in there, and there's bone spurs, and it's unstable and da-da-da. Thankfully, like, there was a second opinion, and then it came back to the fact that I'd never missed games and I was still functional, so they couldn't tear up my contract. So I got the contract, but from then on, like, my knees got worse and worse, and I was on a lot of painkillers. And yeah, like, looking back, I never wanted to think of it as a bad thing or a limitation, because I was just wanting to play the game and do what I could. And that's part of the mindset of being a rugby player. You don't, in such a physical, tough game, your body's always sore. But that really limited me because I would start to protect it, and I wasn't the athlete that I was, because I used to be explosive and fast and good at changing angles. And when you're trying to protect something throughout training for it to be okay on the weekend, you're losing your power, your skill, your speed, because it's got to be done frequently, right? And then it's not second nature anymore when you're not doing it all day, every day throughout the week. So I started to see that I wasn't the player that I was. I wasn't able to hit gaps, or if I'd see space, I didn't have the acceleration, or, I'd be able to break tackles in the past or step late. And because I was protecting that knee and I was in so much pain, it became frustrating, man. But you never want to accept it, because you want to be like, nah, I can do that, because that's part of the belief you've got in order to be doing that game, right? But now that I look back and I've truly been able to have perspective and accept it, I was like, yeah, man, like, you really weren't the player that you set out to be, and that knee, like, it did limit you. But I'm kind of proud that I didn't have the mindset that I was limited at the time,
Did that level of self-awareness begin to manifest into something that meant you had to walk away from the game? How did the decision get made that you were leaving the game? The pain, or an understanding that you weren't the player that you once were, or that you wanted to be?
So I kind of strategically navigated my way out the game, because by chance, like, Puresport began. Because I got so sick of the painkillers that I was taking every day. I was taking, like, opioid-based painkillers every day for my knee pain. I started researching, like, alternatives to painkillers, because it was becoming so unhealthy. Like, I felt sick, like, and also the opioids were becoming, like, addictive. And so I started researching natural alternatives. I found CBD, and I also found at that point, through that, like, research, I stumbled into the world of, like, mushrooms and nootropics, and I was like, damn, this shit's fascinating. Like, they never tell us about this in rugby. Like, this is a whole nother world out there of, like, how you can optimize the body and how it works with nature. And, there, where it was just some protein powder and some painkillers, so I became really fascinated. It got to the point where I was taking them secretly, because we weren't really meant to take CBD, because there was none that was certified for sport. And then my team doctor found out. He was unhappy with me, said I wasn't allowed to take it. So being that kind of dude that I've explained at school and stuff like that I didn't like being told to do something just because that's what they said, I started researching, okay, I'm going to find a way to take it. And the way to do it is create the world's first fully certified for drug-tested athletes range of CBD products. And again, like, ignorance was bliss, because, like, I just found a way to do it, like, called people up, manufacturers, the batch testing. And then, I brought Puresport to life. And then as it started to grow, and we're just lucky, like, the timing, because no brand had ever done certified CBD, and CBD was new in the UK at the time, and athletes were interested in it because it was saying, like, wow, it's mysterious because it came from cannabis, but we can take this one, and people were curious. So it was just a good timing and luck that had happened at that time, and that I'd had that idea. And my team doctor said I couldn't, so it sparked something in me. Started to grow, and then that's when I was like, okay, shit, this could be my next career, because I always used to be real worried what I was going to do after rugby, because I know that I'm someone that it's got to be something I'm passionate about, otherwise I'm not going to apply myself. And I didn't know what that was, but I was waiting and looking for what that was, because I knew whatever my passion and drive goes into, I can give it everything. But I didn't know, and then this came, I was like, this is it. So a huge part of my drive with Puresport was to create a new career for myself too, and that I'll just be giving it everything. So for 2 years, and then I had the chance after Glasgow to go play for a club in France. And then I was like, okay, I could go play in France for like a couple of years, and like that'll be a sick experience, and that'll be like a cool way to finish my career. But I've got this business that's starting to grow now, and this is my next career, and I got to really try and make the most of this now. So then I strategically chose to not go to France, which was a tough decision, and I took up a contract at London Scottish in the championship. And because the reason I did that is they train only 3 days a week, and they finish at lunchtime, and it's in London. And I was like, that's the perfect setup for me to be able to pay my rent, not take money out the business, but grow the business. Hopefully I can grow it within a year or two to get to the point where I can take a salary out and live off that salary from the business, and I'm done with rugby. But the reality is at that point, I was quite shit at rugby, like compared to what I was before, because I was done. Like mentally, I was doing it because I was
so
like,
many similarities between your story and mine. I was never quite as good as you at rugby, but fuck.
Barbara, I know you, man. You would have been a nuggety dude, bro.
So there's two parts to your story, right? There's Grayson the rugby player, which, I mean, the two are intertwined because I think there's so many lessons from rugby that you would have carried through to pure sport. But there's Grayson the rugby player and there's Grayson the founder. And the passion you showed in both, one just in what you've spoke about for the last 20, 30 minutes within rugby, is certainly what I think a lot of people would have seen, those that have followed the pure sport journey. I've been very lucky to be involved with it from very early on. The connection with Will bringing me on board as an early ambassador for what you were doing.
The OG ambassador, man.
But you're a classic founder. Like myself, often leading with emotion, but just an incredible amount of doggedness and passion for what you're doing. So back then, you're in this kind of hybrid role of winding down a rugby career, assessing what the options are to give you that security afterwards. And actually to this day, like my goal when I moved out of rugby was just to be able to take a salary. And that's why building the first gym was so much to me, because I was like, I've got a physical place to work where I can go and just like, at least I can keep putting food on the table, because I didn't know what my identity was going to be beyond rugby. I genuinely didn't know what that would be. Fitness so happened to be the thing that I could excel in. So you've come up with this product. Timing, I think, was great for you because, as we've seen over the last few years, CBD has become a lot more mainstream. But how did you then take this idea and a few products to what has arguably been the last 4 to 5 years, particularly in the UK? I think anyone that you speak to will know that Pure Sport is known for probably the fastest growing community that's ever been built, and one that there's a visceral connection with the consumer. So let's talk through the first couple of years, because it was a small circle of people that were influential in that time.
Yeah, I think, the bit that I realised when I'd learned that I'd taken my opportunity in rugby in New Zealand for granted and kind of like gone off on a bad track, and that never left me. And so when I started Pure Sport, anyone that believed in this brand or this product, I was just genuinely grateful. Like, because if you think about it, I was a rugby player and I had this idea, and then I was driven to create the best quality product I could and get it certified. But I had no idea about business, and I also had no like scientific or nutritional background or anything like that. So like in my mind, it was like, I'm going to just do everything I can to make sure that I utilize the expertise to create the best possible product. And I wrote this thing down because starting a business is quite scary, like because the likelihood is that you don't know how it's going to go, and you got it to, especially when you're a founder and it's a bootstrap business, it's you are doing everything. You got to put yourself out there. You got to be bold, and you got to be willing to fail in front of everyone, like your peers, especially because we are conditioned to worry what people think about it, but it's never true. And doing something like this, and well, makes you realize people's opinions of you, they don't really even exist. They only exist in your own mind. And so what, but you got to do the things that you need to do, and you got to put yourself out there, and that can be uncomfortable at times. And so when that's the case, and someone believes in you and they buy your product, when an order would come through, and in those days, man, at the start, I'd get 5 or 6 orders a week, and I'd be like, fuck, and I'd read the name come up on the screen. I'd be like, thank you. I'd read it. I'd be like, yeah. And I'd write the name and on the envelope. I'd take it to the post office. And it was just a genuine feeling of gratitude. And I was like, everyone that believes in this brand, I want to connect, I want to foster them, because I got no right for them to believe in a business I've just created, but I know the product's great, but they are showing faith in me, So my ethos from the start is, anyone that messaged on Instagram or email or interacted or bought a product, they were the foundation of my business, And then the way I viewed it is, never stop doing that. Every touch point that Pure Sport's ever had my drive has been to make sure that the people feel valued and that they're part of what we're doing. So every DM, you know, I remember at the start when it was only me for that first 2 years, I would click on their name, someone that messaged, and I would check what their actual name was, and I would reply with their name. And I'm like, thank you so much for, you know, so-and-so for da-da-da. Anyone that tagged us, I would always thank them. Like, because think about when you go out your way to interact with a brand or a person or share their content or share something to do with them, how much does it mean to you if they take that little bit of time, you know? And then the power of that when you're a bigger brand, if someone, you know, but then also think about like if you've tagged a brand that you think's cool or you've interacted with them and they just blank you. You're not going out your way to dislike them, but it's a vast difference than that actual like feeling of connection and appreciation. So from the start, I was like, I had no resource. I was always like, I'm gonna make the best product. I'm gonna do the best I can. I'm gonna connect with people. But I think my biggest passion in Puresport was like, I wanted to create a working environment where like everyone could be themselves. Because I think there's this environment or perspective of like workplaces these days that it's like everyone's looking to be offended and everyone's got like rigid guidelines of how you should be and how you should act and all that. And it's like, just be good people and connect with each other and be honest with each other and be yourself. Because for me, like the ability to be yourself, that's one of the things I value the most in life. And being yourself, all humans in their core are good. Like your core is good. So the more you're encouraged to be yourself, that's bringing your core out, which is good. You know, when you try people to get them to be a certain way, they're not going to be themselves and they're going to try. And then the more you try, the more you get further away from your core, you know. So that was something that I was passionate about and I wanted that to filter through everything that we did. And then the other touch point is I wanted to utilize these natural products. And what I found profound about the CBD and the mushrooms is your body is actually designed to interact with these resources from nature, like receptors that are designed to connect with CBD, the endocannabinoid system, and neurotransmitters in the brain that lion's mane interact with to repair neural pathways. Like, I just found that shit so fascinating that we're connected with nature and we're designed to interact with it. And so a big part of my passion is like getting people to question the status quo and how we're living and how we're looking after ourselves. So sense of belonging, appreciation for the people for being part of what you're doing and not ever pretending that that's not the case. And that questioning of the status quo of like the interconnectedness of ourself and nature and life and how we're living. Those are the foundations of Puresport. And pretty much for me, the product was a symbol for those meanings, you know, and I just wanted people to feel part of that meaning. That's why we created the Run Club and the community. And yeah, that for me has been my drive and passion with Puresport.
The sense of belonging piece, where did that come from? From rugby, from your dad?
Yeah, I think growing up in the way that we did, I always had a feeling like I wasn't good enough, you know, like my dad wasn't employed. He'd had drug addiction issues. We lived in a poor area and like we went without. And, you know, when you're a little kid and you're going and you're playing rugby and you see the other families and all of that, and it's like sometimes you feel not good enough or you don't belong or you shouldn't be there. So like that was, and then in the rugby environments, like rugby, as you know, rugby is a very like, they like people to be the same. They try to make all the players be the same, you know, like it's that same thing, the tall poppy syndrome. It's like they want everyone, like no one's like you do things the way the team does it. That's that, you know, and if you do something different, even if it's not a problem, like it's kind of like you're way being different. And I don't think that's a good way to be. I think everyone should be free to be themselves. And by being yourself, you're going to adhere to the collective because your core is good. And so that was something I never felt like I belonged in the rugby environment because I would question things or you know, like, yeah, like if you're interested in different things that aren't just the norm that the rugby guys are interested in, it's a bit like, oh, you're an outsider, you're a bit weird or whatever, you know. So I just wanted a place that made me understand that all humans want to know that they are all good as they are. So for me, the Run Club was like, it's a place for anyone and everyone to come along. And what I said to all team members that ever join Puresport is, anyone that ever comes to any of our events, our job is to make them know that they are one of us, that whoever they are, whatever they're there for, whatever they're doing, they're good, you know? And that's the ethos behind the community. And I think, the world's shifted in its perspective of how we live and how we look after ourselves, and people are looking for ways to socialize and connect that aren't just the pub or the nightclub, you know? So if you can provide something, 90% of why people go to Run Club is social connection. The running's like 10% of it, you know? And it also helps that running's growing and like becoming more part of people's lifestyles. But everything about the ethos behind how we did it and what we were doing was to provide a sense of belonging.
There's some lessons here for founders. I think it starts with, you mentioned the world-class product, like trying to create the best CBD that you could with the resource that you have, doing things with good intention at all times, and harnessing the power of just your own personal experiences and times when you feel as though you were discredited or wrong, like the wrongdoing was done to you and there's a different way of doing things. You can create a pretty powerful business and go on to create some pretty incredible things like you have done with Puresport off the back of very little from the get-go, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I think I had $5,000 and 200 bottles of CBD at the start. That was it. Handwritten thing. I had no packaging. Couldn't afford packaging. I remember sitting there, I was like, I'm going to get packaging one day, man. It's going to be sick. But yeah, I think, I don't know, man, like, honestly, if I can create it, anyone can. Because I had no skills. I had no knowledge, like nothing. I was clueless. But also, sometimes being clueless is a superpower because you just find a way. You ain't bogged down by how you should do it. And if you're passionate, like, and no one's ever going to have that drive and passion and meaning behind it that the founder does, right? So don't be afraid to share that. Don't be embarrassed to share that with people, like your team, your customer, your ambassadors, your community, and just share it to the world. And I also think businesses are truly an opportunity for positive change in the world, especially small businesses, not the corporate, because big corporations, they got this big infrastructure and it's all just about making money at the end of the day. Small businesses, like, they can be truly influential on like changing society. And I think the only real way to change society and the path of society and what we prioritize in life, it has to start from the ground up, like real people making changes in their own lives. You can't rely on the top down, because the top down I find is too wrapped up in their agendas for like money and power and all that. But the bottom up and businesses have a huge opportunity to influence real life people from the ground up and like change their perception on themselves, like without limits, you know, and how are we living our life and what do we prioritize? Like, you know, you promoting like living your life truly as a good father, you know, and then how that knocks on into your business. And yeah, man, like, that's something that drives me in terms of what I'm so passionate about. I love the supplements and I love making the apparel, and I find it all like genuinely, like, I really enjoy the creative process and building the understanding, the meaning behind it and connecting it to people. But my biggest passion is like at getting people to question how we're living our lives. And I think that has to come from the ground up. It has to be lived, you know.
How did you develop this level of thinking? Because I've seen it in bits more so over the last few months. Prior to that, like we used to speak at length, right, particularly through lockdowns and things. But I probably wasn't quite as aware of how deeply and how much you critique agendas and constraints placed on us. Yeah, I find like I'm drawn to it though, because there's things you said today that the way you're articulating it makes you think a little bit differently. You're like, oh fuck, he's right.
Yeah, I think every single human being has a strong intuition that we're something more than we appear to be, or that society has told us that we are. Like, I think society has it ingrained in us that all we are is our body and our thoughts. And from that perspective, you're seeking security out in the outward world. Whereas actually, if you look at it at a deeper level, the most happy, peaceful, content, abundant people, it's not about what they have, and it's not about the perception they have of others. They're just peaceful. And there could be really peaceful, happy, content people that have very little, and there can be very peaceful, happy, content people that have a lot. But then neither are defined by that thing. And then you can have very unhappy people that have little and very unhappy people that have a lot, right? So it can't ever be the thing and the perception and the outward stuff. It's about the understanding you have of who you are. And going through that loss of my dad and then my rugby career, that going off the rails and really exhausting the outward search to fill that void made me like really have to question, like, who am I and what is life about? And so that's why I say I think life is giving us opportunities every day, sometimes wrapped up in success, sometimes wrapped up in hardship, to question, like, okay, because you know something powerful, when I made my Scotland debut, I had dreamed my whole life of becoming an international rugby player, and it shifted from the All Blacks to Scotland. But that was cool because like they do well in Scotland rugby, like they get paid well, and like, you know, it's Six Nations and it's cool. So that was my drive. I made my Scotland rugby debut. My family was proud. I got my life back on track. Things were going good. I was earning good money. I sat in that hotel room, and I still remember it, man. I sat in the hotel room and I was like, man, I dreamed of this. This is like a milestone for me. This is like something amazing. And I sat there and I was like, I still am the exact same human. Like, it doesn't make me feel happier. It doesn't make me feel more fulfilled. It's cool. Like, it's great, but it doesn't define me. It doesn't add anything to who I am at my core. And that's powerful to recognize that stuff too, because if we don't, we're taught to just keep fucking chasing outcomes all the time to feel better. But achieving shit and doing shit that's meaningful to you is amazing, because like creating and connecting and building and like that stuff's cool, and like learning and evolving, that stuff's really cool, but it will never actually make you happier. That's the biggest understanding that I've never been able to unsee through the things I've faced in my life, through the achievements and the lows. Like, the mind will tell you, look for happiness, abundance, contentment, peace in the outside world. But it's like a dog chasing its tail. And I really chased my tail in those young years after my dad died, and it exhausted me to the point where I had to ask the question. Whereas some people don't do it to that intensity, and it's just low level, like, discontent, and they just live a life of it. Whereas it was that, so I don't know, man, something happened at that point in my life that it shifted everything.
I mean, the final one for me is it might be hard to identify, but you've obviously gone through a great deal of trauma in your life, which has helped you find that perspective. What do people do that haven't yet gone through that level of trauma?
Yeah, I think like going through like really hard stuff can like makes you have to question, like, because when there's no way out of the darkness, you can either just carry on into the depths of darkness. And I believe that's how people become like drug addicts and things like that. There's that way, or the only other way is like, okay, I got to find peace somehow, and I'm not finding it out there, and I don't want to keep going down that road. And then you look in, and you see like within you, there's a background which all the thoughts, feelings, and perceptions arise upon, and that is actually peaceful, regardless of how hard or down or sad the current circumstances or feelings are. Like, there's a background that's peaceful that we've never been taught to look at. It's just who we are. It's there. That's why, like, you know, there's moments, like, humans have different feelings. Like, we feel down some days, we feel sad, we have hard thoughts, and then we have good moments and happy moments and great experiences. You're living a facade or an illusion if you are chasing only good feelings and happiness and good things, because that's not how life works. you know, and the more we understand that we're the background, the awareness that all these different thoughts, feelings, experiences arise upon, we actually operate in a way of clarity, you know, because if you think you're trying to avoid bad thoughts, feelings, and experiences, you're living in anxiety and insecurity, and your mind's not clear. Whereas if you know you're good, regardless of the circumstance or feeling, you bring yourself back to clarity, back to balance, back to peace, and then solutions arise, or the difficulty of the situation is seen to be not as bad as what it seems to be. So I guess the reason I explain it that way is that is available to everybody. That's not only available to someone who's faced real trauma and difficulty. So that understanding, that ability to go inward and say, who am I and what is aware of my current thoughts, feelings, and experience, that's available to everybody. The society we live in has just sent us on a wild goose chase outward. Because think about the most powerful people in the world. They're the most fearful, anxious, insecure people. And they've built their foundation on sand, right? And they have to keep selling that insecurity to the world to hold their position, and it filters down. And then we're taught, you need the house, you need the marriage, you need the finances, you need the degree, you need the approval of the people around you, da-da-da-da. It's all built on insecurity, and it's chasing, and it's never enough. Whereas you look at the most profound, peaceful, happy people, whatever they're doing in their life, they are just good in the moment, and every moment they're good, whatever the feelings. So I think that would be my biggest thing, is like, you don't need trauma. If you feel sad, down, insecure, or you feel good, excited, happy, ask yourself, what is it within me that's aware of that experience? And you just keep asking yourself that question, you'll find that space within you is good regardless, all the time. And then you get a new perspective.
I think that's a good place to wrap it up. I mean, this has been one of the most powerful conversations I've ever had.
Thanks, bro.
Fuck. I mean, listen, there's a lot of your history that I can relate to, and I think that's probably why we get on so well, and there's a lot of synergy between us, and we become good friends. I'm grateful you came into the fitness space with Puresport. It's been a good 4 or 5 years since I first got to know you. I'm really looking forward to the next 4 or 5 years, brother.
Me too, man, and I'm unbelievably grateful for you and Marchon crew, and you're an example of, man, I saw you and what you were doing in the fitness space, and I called you up, and you gave me the time of day, and I explained to you my passion, my vision for the product, and you're like, man, I want to give it a go. And you said to me, I'll not promote something unless I believe in it and it helps me, you know. And so I was like, just try the product, man, and see how you go, because I said, that's what I want. I want people that's true. And from that day onwards, like, that authenticity and that sharing of that, like, just passion to bring the vision to life through you and Marchon and me and Puresport. When we had that funny little period where we were both into like the NFG, and we had teams that were like competing. We were like, fuck, man. Our old competitive fucking spirit got the best of us at times, but man, it's been amazing, bro, and I'm always grateful for you and what you've done for us. You've always stayed true.
Fuck yeah, bro. Thanks, Grace.